A child's wrong emergency call pulled a millionaire into a single mother's darkest night. Adrian Cole had never believed in fate. He believed in systems, calculations, and prevention. He built his entire fortune on the idea that danger could be avoided if people had the right protection. That was why he founded Cole Secure, one of the most advanced home security networks in the country. With every decision he made, Adrian tried to rewrite the past he could not change. 17 years earlier, his younger sister had dialed the emergency line during a break-in. The call was dropped, rerouted, and lost in a sea of technical failures. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Adrian lived with that memory every day. It was the reason he slept lightly. It was the reason he answered unknown calls instead of letting them ring. And it was the reason that on a quiet night in early spring, when his phone buzzed at 11:42 p.m., he picked it up without hesitation. A trembling little voice whispered into the receiver, "Please, please help. Someone is trying to get in. My mom is scared." Adrian sat upright. "Sweetheart, tell me your name. Tell me where you are." "I am Anna," the child said. Her breath shook as if she was trying not to cry. "I called the emergency number, but I think I pressed the wrong one." The call crackled. Adrian heard a loud thud, a woman's muffled cry. Then the line went dead. For a long second, Adrian stared at the screen. The call was not saved in his contacts. It came from a weak signal, bouncing between two towers, barely traceable. But there was one feature his company tested internally, a temporary emergency ping that lasts towards 60 seconds after a disconnected call. He activated it immediately. A faint location emerged on the map, a narrow street near the edge of a quiet residential neighborhood. It was close enough for him to reach within minutes. Adrian grabbed his jacket and keys. He did not think about the risks. He did not think about who was behind that door or whether he would be welcomed. All he heard was a little girl's shaking voice saying someone was trying to get in. And he had promised himself years ago that he would never ignore a call for help again. The night air was cold when he drove through the winding streets. Houses were dark, windows dim, wind rustling through bare branches. Everything felt still, almost too still, as if the neighborhood was holding its breath. He pulled up near a small, aging building with peeling paint and flickering porch lights. One window on the left glowed faintly. That was the apartment the ping pointed to. Adrian approached quietly, every sense alert. As he reached the stairs, he heard a low, harsh voice on the other side of a thin door. "You owe money? Do not make this harder," the man growled. A woman answered, her tone tight with fear. "Please leave us alone. You should not be here." Then a small cry. "Mom?" Adrian did not hesitate. He pushed the door hard, catching the intruder off guard. The man stumbled, shocked by the sudden impact, but recovered quickly, swinging toward Adrian with fury in his eyes. Adrian blocked the strike, shoved him back, and forced him to the ground. The struggle was rough, fast, and desperate. The man tried to reach his pocket, but Adrian pinned his arm before he could grab anything. The woman stood frozen against the wall, shielding her daughter behind her. Her hair was messy, her breath sharp with panic, and her eyes wide with disbelief. She looked like someone who had been running all her life. "You stay away from them," Adrian said, voice steady but burning. The man spat out, "She owes. She cannot hide forever." Sirens began to echo down the street. The intruder tried to escape, but Adrian held him until officers rushed in. As they took the man away, the woman finally found her voice. Who are you?" she whispered. Adrian turned to her slowly. "My name is Adrian Cole. I came because your daughter called for help." The little girl stepped from behind her mother, eyes big, shimmering. "You heard me. You really heard me." And for the first time in many years, Adrian felt something shift in his chest, something he could not name yet. But he knew one thing. This was not an accident. This was the beginning of something much larger. The police officers had taken statements, secured the hallway, and escorted the intruder into the back of a patrol car. The flashing red and blue lights faded slowly as the vehicles pulled away, leaving the narrow street wrapped in a heavy, unsettled quiet. Inside the small apartment, the air still carried the sharp scent of fear. Nora Bennett stood near the kitchen counter, her arms wrapped tightly around her daughter, as if afraid that letting go would shatter the fragile safety that had just returned. Adrian Cole stood a few feet away, giving them space. He did not want to overwhelm them, but he also felt an unfamiliar pull in his chest, urging him to stay just a little longer. Nora's eyes avoided his at first, darting instead around the room as she checked every lock, every latch, every corner where shadows lingered. She moved with the practiced tension of someone who had lived too long in survival mode. When she finally looked at him, her voice was quiet but steady. "Thank you for coming," Nora said. "Most people would not have." Adrian shook his head. "Your daughter reached me. That was enough." Nora hesitated, then guided Anna to sit on the small couch. The little girl held a cup of warm water with both hands, her fingers trembling slightly. She kept stealing glances at Adrian, as if trying to decide whether he was real or part of a dream. When he met her eyes, she whispered, "I am sorry. I pressed the wrong number." "You did the right thing," Adrian said gently. "You were brave. You protected your mother." Anna's lips curved into a shy, tired smile. It was the first hint of light Adrian had seen in the apartment. Nora sat beside her daughter, but her gaze remained restless. She looked at the damaged lock on the door, the scattered items on the floor, the overturned chair. Adrian recognized the pattern. After a break-in, the fear did not end when the danger ended. It lingered like smoke, filling every corner of the mind. "You should not stay here tonight," Adrian said quietly. "Your lock is broken, and whoever sent that man may not stop." Nora's shoulders stiffened. "The police said they would file a report. They said the situation might have been a misunderstanding." Adrian could hear the disbelief in her voice. A misunderstanding. People like Nora were often told to accept flimsy reassurances because it was easier than facing the truth. But Adrian had heard the intruder's tone. He knew the difference between a thief and someone hunting a target. "Nora," he said, his tone calm, "that man did not come here by accident." Her eyes flickered with something deeper than fear. A history she was not ready to share. She took a slow breath, then lowered her voice. "I cannot leave," she said. "I have lived in many places. If I move again, I will lose my job." She paused. "Anna needs stability." Adrian understood, but the tightness in his chest did not ease. "Stability does not matter if you are not safe." Nora looked away. The truth of that sentence weighed on her more than she wanted to admit. Anna tugged gently at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, I am scared of the door." Nora closed her eyes for a brief moment, then stood and knelt next to the broken lock. She traced it with her fingers as if trying to convince herself that she could fix everything by tightening a screw or straightening a hinge, but her hands were shaking too much. Adrian stepped forward. "Let me help with that." Nora hesitated, her pride warring with exhaustion. Then she nodded once. Adrian knelt beside the door. He examined the damaged frame, the cracked latch, the splintered wood. This was not just the mark of a forced entry. It was the mark of persistence. Whoever had sent the intruder wanted to get inside badly enough to send someone untrained, someone reckless. As he worked, Adrian spoke softly, not to pry, but to reassure. "I will make it whole for tonight. Tomorrow, I will bring tools and reinforce it properly." Nora stared at him, surprised. "Why would you do that?" Adrian paused, looked at her, and answered with honesty that surprised even himself. "Because someone called me for help, and I cannot walk away knowing you are still in danger." For a long moment, Nora did not respond. Her eyes softened, then lowered, as if she was afraid her gratitude would reveal too much. When Adrian finished tightening the temporary fixes, he stood and brushed the dust from his hands. "It will keep the door closed. Not perfect, but safer." "I'll..." Anna slipped off the couch and approached him carefully. She held something small in her hand. "This fell from your pocket," she said. Adrian looked down. It was the silver necklace, the one that belonged to his sister, the one he never let out of his sight. He reached for it, but Anna pulled it back for a second, studying the engraved symbol with innocent curiosity. "It looks important," she said. "It is," Adrian answered quietly. He took it gently, but something about the moment left him uneasy, as if that tiny object had just shifted the path of everything ahead. And he was right. The night was ending, but the real danger had only begun. Morning arrived slowly over the quiet neighborhood, painting the small apartment building in soft gold light that felt far calmer than the night before. But inside Nora Bennett's living room, calm was only an illusion. A single night was not enough to wash away fear. It lingered in the air, subtle but sharp, like the echo of footsteps that had not fully faded. Adrian Cole stood near the doorway with a new set of reinforced locks, metal brackets, and a compact toolkit he had brought himself. He had not slept. He told himself it was because of work, but the truth was simpler. The image of Anna's shaking hands and Nora's exhausted eyes had stayed with him long after he left. Nora opened the door before he could knock a second time. She looked tired, but she had tied her hair neatly and put on a simple sweater, as if small decisions could help her rebuild control over the day. "You came back," she said quietly. "I said I would." Adrian lifted the tools. A promise should mean something. Nora stepped aside to let him in. Anna peeked from behind the hallway, wearing a school backpack that looked slightly too big for her small frame. When she saw Adrian, her face brightened with a hesitant kind of trust. "Good morning, Mr. Adrian," she said. His voice softened. "Good morning, Anna. Ready for school?" She nodded, but her eyes flicked toward the front door. "I do not like the sound it makes now. It feels loose." "It will not feel loose much longer," Adrian assured her. As he began working on the frame, Nora prepared breakfast for Anna. The small clinks of tools and the quiet hum of the morning created a strange, gentle rhythm, almost domestic. It surprised Nora how natural it felt to have Adrian there, though she barely knew him. After a few minutes, Nora placed a plate on the table and called her daughter over. "Eat quickly or you will miss the bus," she reminded her. Anna glanced at Adrian again before sitting down. "Mom, can Mr. Adrian walk with me to the bus stop?" she asked carefully, as if afraid the question was too bold. Nora blinked, taken off guard. She looked at Adrian, who paused his work. "If your mother does not mind, I can," he said. Nora hesitated, but then nodded. "It is fine." Anna smiled, a real smile this time, bright and unguarded. Adrian returned to tightening the final screws. The new lock clicked into place with a solid, reassuring sound. He tested it twice, then stepped back. "That should keep you safe," he said. Nora traced the edges of the reinforced frame with her fingertips. "Thank you, I mean it." Adrian studied her for a moment. There were questions running through his mind, the kind that would expose the truth behind last night. Why was the intruder sent? Why did he say she owed money? Why did Nora look like someone constantly expecting danger? But something in Nora's guarded posture told him she was not ready, and he was not the kind of man who forced answers. Instead, he said, "If anything happens again, call me directly." Nora opened her mouth to protest, but Anna ran over and took Adrian's hand. "We should go," she said. "The bus will come in 10 minutes. Adrian nodded and followed her out. The walk to the bus stop was short, but filled with the small innocence of honest chatter. She talked about her favorite teacher, the science project she wanted to do, and the stray cat that lived behind the school. Adrian listened with a gentleness he did not often show. Her voice reminded him of a time before loss had carved its mark on his life. When the bus approached, Anna turned to him and held out her pinky finger. "Promise you will make sure Mom is okay today." Adrian linked his pinky with hers. "I promise." She boarded the bus, waving through the window until it pulled away. The moment the bus disappeared around the corner, the atmosphere shifted. The lightness faded. Adrian turned back toward the apartment building with a heavier purpose. Nora stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching him return. "You did not have to walk her there," she said. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." Nora took a slow breath. "Last night, it was not the first time someone has come around. That is why I am cautious." Adrian's expression sharpened. "Has someone tried to break in before?" "Not exactly," she said, choosing her words with precision. "But I have seen people watching the building. Men I do not recognize. They never come inside, but they stay long enough to make me uneasy." "Oh?" Adrian stepped closer, his voice steady. "Nora, someone is targeting you. That man last night was not acting alone. You need to tell me what you are running from." Her eyes widened. Fear flickered across her face, raw and unmasked. "I cannot," Nora whispered. "If I talk about it, everything will fall apart." Adrian held her gaze. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "telling the truth is the only way to stop the past from chasing you." Nora looked away, biting her lip. The silence between them was thick with all the things she refused to say. But neither of them knew that the necklace Anna had carried the night before had already drawn new eyes toward their fragile peace. And danger was much closer than either of them realized. For the rest of the morning, Adrian Cole stayed near the building, repairing the final pieces of the door frame and testing the reinforced lock twice more. He told himself it was just to ensure the work was done properly, but the truth ran deeper. Something about Nora Bennett's fear did not feel like ordinary fear. It carried the weight of someone who had been hunted before. When the last bolt clicked into place, Adrian stepped back and wiped his hands. Nora stood near the kitchen doorway, watching him with a mixture of gratitude and worry. "You work fast," she said. "Years of habit." Adrian collected his tools. I learned that delays can cost lives. Her expression softened for a moment, then tightened again, as if she remembered something she wished she could forget. Would you like some coffee? She asked. Adrian hesitated. Only if it does not trouble you. It is no trouble, Nora replied quietly. You have done more for us than you needed to. She turned toward the small counter and began preparing 2 cups. As she worked, her hands moved with practiced precision, but Adrian noticed the subtle tremor in her fingers. She was trying very hard to appear calm. I appreciate your help, Nora said, her back still turned, but I do not want to become a burden. You are not a burden, Adrian answered simply. She paused. Those words seemed to hit a place she kept hidden. When she handed him the cup, her eyes met his for the first time that morning. There was a depth in them, something bruised but resilient. Adrian had seen that look before in victims of break-ins, in people haunted by a past they could not outrun. But he did not press her. Not yet. Before either of them could speak again, a small knock came from the door. It was light, rhythmic, almost polite. Nora's entire body stiffened. Adrian stepped forward immediately. Stay back, he said firmly. He approached the peephole, expecting another officer or neighbor. But the hallway was empty. Another knock, this time softer, almost playful. Adrian opened the door quickly, ready for anything. No one was there, only a small envelope lying on the floor. A chill ran through him. He bent down and picked it up. There was no name, no address, just a thin, elegant symbol embossed on the flap. A symbol he recognized instantly. It was the old emblem of Ward Holdings. The same emblem engraved on his sister's necklace. The same emblem Anna had seen and picked up the night before. Adrian's jaw tightened. Nora stood frozen a few feet behind him. She recognized it too, her face drained of color. No, she whispered. Not again. Adrian turned sharply. Nora, you know this symbol. She did not answer. Her hand covered her mouth, her breath uneven. Adrian stepped closer, voice steady but urgent. Nora, tell me what this means. Tell me who sent this. She shook her head, her eyes filling with panic. I cannot. They cannot know where we are. They cannot. Adrian opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. A photo of Nora, taken from across the street just 2 days earlier. Another photo of Anna at the school bus stop that morning. Adrian felt his stomach twist. And then the last one, a picture of him standing outside the apartment with Anna. Across the back of the photograph, a message was written in clean, sharp handwriting. Stay out of what does not belong to you. And Nora gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. Her knees looked ready to give out. They know, she whispered. They know someone is helping me. They think you are from my past. Adrian felt a slow burn rise through him. Why would they think that? Her voice broke. Because that emblem, only people connected to Ward Holdings would carry it. They will not believe anything else. Adrian finally understood the twisted misunderstanding forming around them. Nora, he said, that necklace belonged to my sister. It has nothing to do with them. Nora pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. They will never believe that. They will think you came to take us back. They will think you are his ally. Whose ally? Adrian asked, though he already had a guess. Nora answered with barely a whisper. My husband. My ex-husband. Ethan Ward. The name landed between them like a weight. Nora's voice trembled as she continued. He will not stop. Not until he has Anna back under his control. He will not care who gets hurt in the process. Adrian looked down at the photographs again. Nora, he said, his voice turning firm, you are not alone in this. For the first time, Nora did not look away. She held his gaze with fear, yes, but also with the faintest spark of trust. Adrian straightened. This was no longer about a wrong call. This was about a woman and child trapped in a nightmare, and a past that was now watching them. Adrian knew one thing for certain. He was not stepping back. Not now. Not ever. If you want, I can continue part 5 with rising tension and the first real confrontation between Adrian and the people hunting Nora. The moment Nora Bennett said the name Ethan Ward, the air in the apartment changed. It tightened, heavy and suffocating, as if the walls themselves understood the danger that name carried. Adrian Cole had handled countless emergencies in his line of work, but none of them had prepared him for the fear in Nora's expression. It was not simple worry. It was the fear of someone who had lived under a shadow and knew it had returned. Nora paced across the room, her hands shaking so hard she had to clutch the side of the table to steady herself. "He found us," she whispered. "After all these years, he found us again." Adrian held the envelope with the photographs, turning each one over slowly. "Nora," he said, keeping his voice firm, "you and Anna are not going back to him." "You do not understand," Nora replied, her breath unsteady. "Ethan is not just wealthy. He is powerful. He has connections. Investigators, lawyers, men who owe him favors. Once he decides something belongs to him, he does not stop." Her voice cracked. "I tried to disappear. I changed my name. I changed Anna's school 3 times. I moved every 6 months. I did everything a person could do. And you did it alone," Adrian said quietly. Nora froze, her eyes dropping to the floor. She did not answer, but the silence spoke for her. Adrian could feel the weight of her exhaustion, the years of fear woven into her every movement. He stepped closer, still keeping a gentle distance. "Nora, I need you to tell me exactly what happened between you and Ethan." She swallowed hard. "Do I have a choice?" "You always have a choice," Adrian said. "But the more I know, the better I can protect you." Nora lowered herself onto the couch, fingers twisting together as if trying to hold herself in place. "Ethan was charming when we met. Everyone said he was a visionary. He ran Ward Holdings like a kingdom. But after we married, everything changed. He controlled every part of my life. What I wore, who I spoke to, when I could leave the house. He said it was love, but it felt like being trapped." She paused, breathing slowly to keep herself steady. "One day he put documents in front of me and told me to sign. I trusted him. I did not know they were financial approvals tied to a development scandal. When the deal collapsed, he blamed me publicly, but privately he punished me." Her voice shook at the last word. Adrian's jaw tightened. He felt something dark rise inside him, not anger at Nora, but at the man who had destroyed her sense of safety. "When I realized Anna was starting to feel afraid of him too," Nora continued, "I left. I took nothing except our clothes and one small bag. I knew he would come after me, but I hoped he would stop once he realized we were gone." She let out a tremor of a laugh. "He never stopped." Adrian knelt down so he could meet her eyes. "He will not get near you again. I will make sure of it." Before Nora could respond, a loud thud echoed from the stairwell. It was not the police. It was not a neighbor. It was the heavy, deliberate sound of someone climbing the steps with purpose. Nora's face drained of color instantly. "They are here," she whispered. "They always send someone first." Adrian stood up immediately. He moved to the door with swift, controlled movements and looked through the peephole. A tall man in a dark coat stood at the top of the stairs, his hands in his pockets, his expression cold and calculating. He was not the intruder from the night before. This one was different, more professional, more dangerous. Adrian turned back toward Nora. "Go to the bedroom. Take Anna if she comes home before this is over. Stay low and stay quiet." Nora took a hesitant step toward him. "Adrian, please do not confront them. It is too late for that," he said. The knock came, firm and intentional. Adrian opened the door just enough to keep control of the frame. "You are at the wrong apartment," he said calmly. The man looked him over slowly. "Mr. Cole," he said, as if he already knew the answer. "We need to talk." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "About what?" "About the woman you are protecting." The man's smile was small, cold, practiced. Ethan Ward would like her returned immediately. Adrian felt something lock into place inside him. A line had been crossed. A threat had been made. He stepped forward just enough to make his position clear. "She is not going anywhere," Adrian said. "Not with you, not with him." The man's smile faded. "Then you are making a very expensive mistake." Adrian did not hesitate. "No," he replied, voice steady as steel. "The mistake was thinking you could intimidate her again." For the first time, the man blinked. And Adrian knew the real fight had begun. The hallway outside Nora Bennett's apartment felt too narrow, too quiet, as if the walls themselves were listening. Adrian Cole stood firmly in the doorway, blocking the man sent by Ethan Ward. The air between them was tight, charged with a kind of silent warning. The man tilted his head slightly, studying Adrian with cold amusement. "You are not involved in this," he said. "Walk away and you will never hear from us again." "That will not happen," Adrian replied. "You came to intimidate a woman and her child. You picked the wrong door." The man's expression did not flicker. You do not know who you are standing against. I do not care, Adrian said. For a moment, the stranger seemed to consider pushing past him. His shoulders shifted, calculating the distance, weighing the odds. But behind Adrian, he could sense another presence. Nora had moved silently to the hallway, her breath shallow, her hands clenched together. Even from a distance, the man could feel her fear. And he smiled. A slow, cruel smile meant to make her shrink. Adrian stepped forward, blocking the man's line of sight completely. His voice dropped lower. Look at me, not her. The stranger's eyes returned to him. Mr. Ward does not appreciate interference. Our client expects results. If the woman does not return willingly, we will keep coming until she does. Adrian tightened his grip on the door. Then you can report to your client that his threats no longer work. The man exhaled with quiet annoyance. Very well. But you should know something, Mr. Cole. He leaned in just enough for his voice to be heard only by Adrian. Once Ethan Ward marks someone as an obstacle, that person tends to disappear. Adrian did not flinch. Then I suggest he starts preparing for disappointment. The man's eyes hardened, but instead of escalating, he stepped back. We will be in touch. He walked away with slow, deliberate steps, a warning in each footfall. Adrian watched him disappear down the stairs before closing the door firmly behind him. The moment the latch clicked, Nora let out a breath she had been holding for far too long. Her knees buckled slightly, and she pressed a hand to the wall to steady herself. He will send more men, she whispered. He always escalates. Adrian turned to her. Then we will escalate too. Nora shook her head. You do not understand. Ethan does not stop when he gets angry. He becomes colder. He becomes precise. I can handle him, Adrian said. But Nora's voice rose, trembling. You do not even know who you are up against. Ethan is the kind of man who destroys people quietly. He uses lawyers, investigators, financial traps. He does not need violence. He uses fear. He uses isolation. Adrian walked to her slowly. Nora, I have seen men like him. They all think they are untouchable. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. I do not want you to get hurt because of me. You will not lose me that easily, Adrian said, his tone steady. But I need you to trust me, completely. Nora dropped her gaze. Trust was a currency she had not spent in years. But there was something different about the way Adrian stood between her and danger. He did not flinch. He did not shrink. He did not doubt her. After a long silence, she spoke. There is something else you should know. Adrian waited. Nora reached for the small drawer near the kitchen. Her hand trembled as she pulled out an object wrapped in a soft cloth. She held it carefully, as if it were something fragile. I found this by the door this morning, she said. I thought it was trash. But after seeing the envelope, I looked closer. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a key. A single metal key with a distinctive symbol carved into its head. The same old emblem of Ward Holdings. Adrian felt a cold shock run through him. Why would they leave this? Nora swallowed hard. It is a message. Ethan used to lock me inside his private study when he wanted to punish me. That key opens that room. It means he is reminding me that he still owns me. Adrian clenched his jaw. He owns nothing. Nora blinked back her fear. You do not understand. This is how he begins. First the warnings, then the watchers, then the demands. And when none of that works, her voice cracked. He takes the child. Adrian stepped closer, his voice calm but filled with steel. He will not touch Anna. Nora pressed the key into his palm. Then you need to understand what we are up against. Adrian closed his fingers around the cold metal. I do, he said, and I will stop him. Outside, across the street, a camera lens glimmered briefly in the sunlight before vanishing behind a tinted window. Someone was already watching, and they had seen enough to make their next move. The rest of the day moved with a tense quiet that pressed against the walls of Nora Bennett's small apartment. Every sound from the street felt sharper, every footstep in the hallway more suspicious. Adrian Cole stayed close, not because he wanted to intrude, but because he could feel danger circling them like a slow tightening net. Nora stood at the window, the curtains barely parted. Her eyes scanned the street below, as if looking for proof that she was not imagining things. She had lived with fear for so long that it became a second shadow, but now that fear had grown teeth. Adrian approached her slowly. You should sit down for a moment, he said. You have been standing there for almost an hour. Nora did not move. I used to do this all the time, she whispered. Watching, waiting, checking if someone was following us. I thought I left that life behind. Adrian looked out the window with her. Cars rolled by in their normal rhythm, but one stood out, a dark vehicle parked too long on the opposite side of the street. The windows were tinted. The engine was off. It had not moved since morning. He recognized the pattern. Watchers often hid in plain sight. "Nora," he said calmly, "has that car been there before today?" She nodded slowly. "I saw it yesterday. I thought it was a neighbor or someone visiting. But after what happened this morning, I am not so sure anymore." Adrian reached for his phone. "I want to check something." Before he could dial, a rapid knock came at the door. Not heavy, not aggressive, but urgent. Nora jumped, stepping back instinctively. Adrian raised a hand. "Stay behind me." And he checked the peephole, expecting another threat. But instead, a familiar face stood outside. Officer Daniels, the younger of the two police officers who had responded to the break-in, waited with a manila folder in hand and concern etched across his features. Adrian opened the door partially. "Officer Daniels." "Mr. Cole?" the officer greeted. "I need to speak with you and Miss Bennett. Something came across my desk." Nora's fear rose again. "Is it about the man from last night?" "Yes," Officer Daniels said, "but it is more than that." Adrian opened the door fully and allowed him inside. Daniels set the folder on the table and opened it. Inside were printed photographs, a short report, and a list of known associates. Adrian recognized one picture immediately. It was the intruder from the break-in. But the report next to it made Nora's breath stop completely. "He was not acting alone," Daniel said. "He works under a private investigator named Russell Dane, and Dane is currently under contract with a high-profile client." Nora closed her eyes. "Ethan Ward." Daniels' silence confirmed it. "I should warn you both," he continued. "This investigator is known for pushing legal boundaries. He has a record of intimidation complaints, none of which have ever stuck. He moves quietly, and he does not leave evidence behind." Nora wrapped her arms around herself, the tremor returning. "Then how did you know it was him?" Daniels pointed to the photos taken from the envelope earlier. "Because these images match his scouting patterns. He takes wide shots first, then tighter ones. He always photographs the exits." Adrian glanced at the picture of himself standing with Anna. "So they have already escalated." "Yes," Daniels agreed. "And there is more." He pulled out a printed traffic report and slid it toward Adrian. "The car across the street is registered to a local shell company. That company is owned by one of Ethan Ward's holding branches." Nora stumbled back as if the ground had tilted beneath her. Adrian steadied her gently. "Nora, breathe." She pressed a hand to her chest. "He is going to take her. He is going to take Anna. That is what he always wanted. Control, power, ownership." Daniels hesitated, then lowered his voice. "There is something else, Miss Bennett, and I am saying this because you deserve to know. Ethan Ward contacted the department earlier today. He reported you and your daughter as missing. He implied that you were mentally unstable and that he feared for the child's safety." Nora covered her mouth, shock rippling through her. "He is trying to paint me as unfit." "That is exactly what he is doing," Daniel said. "He is building a case to take your daughter legally." Adrian felt a deep, sharp fury rise inside him. "Not while I am here." Daniels looked between them, sympathy mixing with caution. "I can keep an eye on your case, but you need to understand something. Ward has influence in this city. He has friends in the legal system. If he pushes this, it will not be easy to fight." Nora's voice broke. "Then what am I supposed to do? He always wins." "Not always," Adrian said. He stepped closer, his presence steady and unwavering. "Nora, listen to me. You are not running anymore. You are not hiding. Not this time. I will protect you and Anna. I have resources too, and I will use every one of them." Nora's eyes shimmered with tears, but beneath the fear was a flicker of something else, hope. Officer Daniels closed the folder gently. "I will do everything I can within the law, but you two need to be careful. They are watching every move you make." As he left, Adrian locked the door behind him and turned back toward Nora. The room felt smaller now. The danger felt closer, and the window across the street glimmered with the faintest reflection of a camera lens. Adrian knew then, this was not just a threat. It was the beginning of a war he had no intention of losing. The sun dipped low behind the rooftops as evening settled over the quiet street. The longer shadows stretched, the more uneasy the atmosphere became. Nora Bennett sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a warm mug she had barely sipped from. The emotional weight of the day pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy blanket she could not remove. Adrian Cole stood near the window, watching the same dark car that had not moved since morning. Every few minutes, he checked the reflection on the glass, searching for the faintest glimmer of movement. Whoever watched them was patient, skilled, and confident. That alone told Adrian the threat had escalated. Nora's voice broke the silence. Anna should be home soon. Or, Adrian glanced at the clock. The bus should arrive in a few minutes. I will walk over and meet her. Nora shook her head slightly. I should go. If they are watching us, they might follow you. If they follow me, they will reveal themselves, Adrian said. If they follow you, they will use it against you. The fear in Nora's eyes deepened, but she did not argue. She had begun to understand that this was no longer a struggle she could fight alone. Adrian stepped toward the door, grabbing his coat. Keep the door locked. Do not open it unless you hear my voice. Nora nodded slowly. He left the apartment and descended the stairs with purposeful steps. The cool air outside carried the scent of pine and exhaust from passing cars. He walked toward the bus stop, scanning each vehicle in every corner of the street. Years of experience had sharpened his instincts, and tonight every instinct screamed caution. The school bus appeared down the road, its headlights bright against the dimming sky. As it pulled up to the stop, Adrian watched closely. Children hopped down the steps, rushing into the arms of waiting parents. But Anna did not appear. Adrian's stomach tensed. He stepped closer to the bus door just as the driver descended. Excuse me, Adrian said. Where is Anna Bennett? The driver frowned slightly. She was supposed to get off at this stop, but she never boarded the bus this afternoon. The words landed like a punch. What do you mean she never boarded? Adrian asked, his voice sharpening. The driver checked the roster. She was marked absent when we left the school. I assumed her mother picked her up early. A cold rush of dread shot through Adrian. Her mother did not pick her up. The driver's expression changed instantly. Sir, is something wrong? Adrian did not answer. He was already moving. He sprinted down the sidewalk, grabbing his phone. His fingers moved swiftly. Nora, it is Adrian, he said as soon as she answered. Do not panic, but Anna did not get on the bus today. The mug in Nora's hand crashed to the floor. What do you mean she did not get on the bus? She always comes home on the bus. I am on my way back, Adrian said. Lock every door and stay away from the windows. Nora's voice trembled. Adrian, please tell me she is just late. Please. But Adrian knew better. He could feel it deep in his chest, the same icy sensation he had felt the night his sister's call was lost. A desperate call for help. A child in danger. And now, another child missing. He reached the building in minutes, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Nora stood inside the apartment with the phone pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. She looked small, fragile, terrified. Adrian entered and closed the door firmly behind him. Nora, he said gently, look at me. She tried, but fear choked her. Ethan took her. I know he did. He used to threaten me with this. He always said the easiest way to punish me was through Anna. Adrian placed his hands on her shoulders. Listen to me very carefully. We do not panic. We act. We think clearly. Whoever took Anna had to move quickly. There must be a trail. Nora shook her head desperately. He will hurt her. He will break her the way he broke me. No, Adrian said, voice solid. He will not touch her. Before Nora could respond, a soft vibration echoed from the hallway. Something had been slipped under the apartment door. Adrian approached cautiously and bent down. It was another envelope, identical to the one from earlier. He opened it with steady hands. Inside was a single photograph. Anna sitting in the back seat of a car, her eyes wide, her face pale, her small hands pressed against the window. On the bottom of the photo, written in precise handwriting, she belongs with her father. Nora's knees nearly gave out. Adrian caught her before she fell. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The apartment was silent, except for Nora's quiet sobs and the rising storm in Adrian's chest. He lifted the photo, his jaw tightening. This ends tonight, Adrian said. I am getting her back. And the promise in his voice was not a hope. It was a certainty forged from loss, fury, and a vow he would not break again. Adrian Cole had always believed that every crisis followed a pattern. There were signs, clues, choices that shaped the outcome. But as he held the photograph of Anna trapped inside a stranger's car, he felt something he had not felt in years, rage sharpened by memory. His sister's voice echoed faintly in the back of his mind, reminding him of the night he could not save her. He refused to let history repeat itself. Nora Bennett stood beside him, trembling, her breath shallow as she stared at the picture. "Adrian," she whispered, "please, get her back. I cannot lose her. I cannot breathe without her." "You will not lose her," Adrian said. "I promise you. I will bring her home tonight." He made 2 calls. The first to Officer Daniels, who answered immediately and confirmed that a statewide alert had been activated. The second to an old colleague from Cole Secure, a man who specialized in emergency tracking operations. "I need every available satellite read of the neighborhood," Adrian said. "Look for any sedan matching this window tint and plate shape. I do not care how small the detail is." Within minutes, preliminary data arrived. Adrian studied it quickly. "They did not leave the city yet," he said. "Traffic cameras show the car turning toward the industrial district." Nora's face drained of color. "Why there?" "Because it is quiet," Adrian said, "and abandoned warehouses do not raise suspicion." Without waiting another second, Adrian grabbed his keys. Nora tried to follow, but he stopped her gently. "Nora, you stay here. The police are on the way. If they come to the apartment, they need to see you. You need to be safe." She shook her head fiercely. "I am going with you." Adrian met her eyes. "If something happens to you, Anna loses everything. I cannot protect both of you at the same time." Those words hit Nora's heart with devastating truth. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Please, Adrian, bring her back to me." He cupped her shoulders with calm certainty. "I will." Then he ran. The industrial district was nearly silent when Adrian arrived. Cold winds swept through rows of empty warehouses, stirring dust and loose gravel. A single vehicle sat near a loading dock, its headlights off. It was the car from the photograph. Adrian approached slowly, every step calculated. He listened for movement. He felt for vibrations. Then he heard it muffled, crying from inside the warehouse. "Anna." He followed the sound, slipping through a half-open side door. The interior was dim, lit only by an overhead bulb that flickered faintly. At the center of the room stood Ethan Ward. He looked exactly as Nora had described, tall, polished, and dangerous, in the way a man becomes when he believes he owns the world. Anna sat on a chair behind him, hands tied loosely, eyes swollen from crying. When she saw Adrian, her breath caught. "Do not move," Ethan said calmly. Adrian stepped forward anyway. "This is over," he said. "Let the child go." Ethan laughed softly. "You think you have authority here, but you are nothing. Nora is mine. Everything she has is mine, including the girl." "No," Adrian said. "She is not yours. She is not a thing to possess." Ethan's smile tightened. "You have no idea who you are dealing with." Adrian took another step. "I do. A coward who hides behind intimidation because he cannot earn loyalty." Something in Ethan's expression snapped. "She signed my documents. She ruined my deal. She embarrassed me before my investors. And she ran. She does not get to choose freedom." Adrian spoke with calm steel. "She already did." Ethan's eyes darkened. He reached into his coat, not for a weapon, but for a phone. "I can end this legally. I can take that child through the courts. And with enough evidence, I can make Nora look like an unfit mother." "Then why kidnap her?" Adrian asked quietly. Ethan froze. "You know why," Adrian continued. "Because you cannot control her anymore, and you cannot stand losing." For the first time, Ethan trembled with fury. Adrian used that moment. He moved fast, knocking the phone from Ethan's hand and forcing him to the ground. Ethan struggled, but Adrian's training, strength, and pure determination held him down. Police sirens echoed outside. Adrian did not let go until officers rushed in and restrained Ethan officially. Anna ran into Adrian's arms the moment she was freed. "Are you hurt?" Adrian asked. She shook her head violently and clung to him. "I knew you would come." He held her tightly, whispering, "You are safe now." When they returned to the apartment, Nora met them at the door. The moment she saw Anna, her legs gave out, and she fell to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms. She cried openly, her tears soaking Anna's hair. Adrian stood quietly, giving them space. Finally, Nora looked up at him. Her voice shook. How can I ever thank you? You do not need to, Adrian said. You called for help once. Your daughter called by accident. But sometimes the wrong call reaches the right person. Nora rose slowly and stepped close. Adrian, she whispered, you saved us. He met her gaze, steady and warm. You saved yourselves, he said. I just made sure he could not take that from you. Nora took his hand gently. For the first time in years, the fear in her eyes softened into something else, trust. Outside, the dark car was gone. The watchers had vanished. And for the first time in a very long time, Nora, Anna, and Adrian stood in a home that finally felt safe. A wrong number had brought them together. Fate would not let them be torn apart again.